Hi, Scott Weaver with Factory Direct Designers Workroom. Today we're going to be mounting the rollee system onto a flat Roman shade, and the unique part about this is that we're putting the mechanism on the front of the shade rather than the back of the shade, and this is particularly useful for inside mounted shades. This would be meaning a shade is going inside the window frame opposed to the outside. And this is one that I have already completed. It looks like this, and it has a valance over it to hide the mechanism. When you pick up the mechanism, you'll see we have grommets, and we have the whole system directly mounted onto the board. So tonight we're going to show you how to put this on and how to string it. And so let's begin here. This is, of course, the head rail right here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the rollee system on it. Now let me just bring it over here so you can get a little better view. I've already cheated a little bit because I've already marked off for my where my rings are going on the shade. But anyway, this is how you would have it. This is the rollee system. I've already put it together. It's really not too hard. And I'm going to be placing this right here. Now I do mine just a little differently than you've seen if you've watched this before. Most people, they would be putting these strings through here. It's designed to go through here. But I don't want to do this because this is mounted on the front side of the shade rather than the back of the shade. And I want these strings to go as close to the edge of the board as shown here. So I want this to go very close. I don't want the string going into the center of the board like you normally would. It's just my preference. I want to keep it to as close as the window as I can, and so it doesn't disturb this valance also that's going over it. So therefore, I am going to be adding little eye rings here. Bring my parts over. Now this can also be used, which will be my next video, with the standard clutch, opposed to using the rollees. If you don't have the rollees available, you can use the standard clutch, which would mean the clutch would be going on either this side or that side. And then you'd be using standard screw eyes, such as this, and you'd be putting them in line with the grommets, every place the grommet is. And you can refer back to, I do have a video on how to string Roman shades, not so much on the front version like I'm doing now, but on the back of the shade. So please feel free to go through my videos. You'll find several on how to mark a shade, how to mount the shade. And matter of fact, I just did a video on how I mounted this shade and the valance together and etc. So also just kind of have your eye out looking for that video as well. So with that being said, I'm going to put this back on here. And I'm going to line these up. Now, when it comes to the location, particularly on this shade, normally this center right here, as I previously described, would be lined up with the grommet hole because that's where the string is. But I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to put these off to the side. And where I have these little marks, if you can see them, that's where I'm going to put my little screw eyes. These are little screw eyes right here, and I want these screw eyes to line up with the grommets right here. And I'm going to use 2 sets of them. As you can see on this one, I have one very close to the the shade itself, and then I have another one to the center of the bar, right here. And so it's going up here through and back down onto the shaft. So that's what we're going to be doing right now. So the first step is to drive little holes in where the screw eye is going to be. I've already marked them, and the location is again right going along right where, and I can use this stripe to line up. It's going to go right in the center of where that grommet is. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and take these little screw eyes, run them in, and then as we're going along, I'll show you a little bit more. It'll make a little bit more sense to you on the location of the screw eyes. You notice in my screw eyes I have one screw eye going this way, and then the one that's going to be on the shaft is going the opposite direction. And again, it'll make a little bit more sense to you once we get these all on and I start stringing the shade. Just a few more here. I've also made this video one other time too, using the rollies, So there's a lot of other helpful hints on putting this roll leads. If you don't quite catch it here, please watch my other video regarding it also. Okay, it's time to add the bar here. This is the aluminum shaft, and this system's called Rollees. It's from the company called Rollees Company. Now, as far as these shaft holders right here, it doesn't really matter the location of it because we're not putting our strings through here. So you just want to make sure that you have enough of them. You want one for each one of these in the center, not including the outer ring, the two outer rings. So in this case, we've got 6 grommets. That's 6 lift strings that are going into it, but we're only using 4 of the center. And so keep that in mind. If you only had 4 grommets, you'd be using one or 2 less. So just keep that in mind as you're doing it. And now I'm going to put these in using number 8 3/4 inch screws. Now I like to keep, I'll put this a little closer here. This is an inside mount, and I like to keep this clutch over as far as I can get it to the edge of the board. And the reason I like to do that is so I can lock down the control cord to the side of the window. You'll see a lot of other videos where they've got this out here someplace. Well, I don't like it there because I like it, at that point you can't lock it down. It'd be too far from your window. You'd be cockeyed like this. So I do try to put it all the way or very close to the edge of the board, and that'll ensure that I can lock that cord down and it'll look better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 3/4 inch screw to the cord clutch here, and then I'm going to go to the other end, my far end, and I'm going to put 1 here. I'm only going to work on one side right now, and this one's a little crooked here. And I'm keeping it about a 1/2 inch away, roughly a 1/2 inch away from the screw eye, the little screw eye. Now, before I put my next set of screws in here, I'm going to make sure that it's moving nice and easy. That ensures that these are all lined up and you don't have one crooked. And by only putting 1 on each side, I can easily test that. If I put my other screw in there and one's a little cockeyed, I can't test it. So that's the purpose of only putting it on one side. Testing, you can see it runs nice and smooth. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the other side of the screws in. You want to make sure that your drill is set fairly low, so you're not jamming it right in and breaking the plastic. You want to make sure that that's not going to happen. Okay. So that's part's done. I'll let you take a good look at it here. Okay, so each one of these screw eyes line up right here. And then these are just set over, but they're dead center of this shaft. They're set over just a little bit over from this, and the only reason I did that is it's just a little easier to string it. You'll see when we start stringing it. And there's only one other screw eye I have to put in, and that is the far one over here. And it goes through the piece of plastic right beside the screw. Right there is where we're going to put the last one in. Just let you know that's where that goes. As a matter of fact, I got to go get one. I kind of forgot about it myself. Okay, so this one goes right into this hole right here. Sometimes it's not the easiest place to put a screw eye in. Okay, now it's time to add the strings. So for this, I have to flip the shade over. And this type of shade is called a ribbed grommet shade. It has these ribs on the back of it. It's not necessary to have ribs. You can just have regular, your regular plastic rings on it. Makes no difference. The purpose of this video is just to show you how to string this and how to make it so the control cords are on the front side of it rather on the back. Okay, now we're going to start. You always have to start on the bottom of the shade. And you're going to run your strings up. Now this is a little flap, and this flap right here is hiding the grommets, so if you're looking in from the house you don't see them. Now you can easily extend this all the way down to the shade after you've got it strung. You can bring it all the way down and hand tack it to conceal the strings if you desire to do so, for child safety protection. You may do that. Okay. So now I just fed this through my grommet right here. Now I have to flip the shade around so we can see it. And here it is right here. Now we're going to string this through this eyelet, like so. So you can see that. And then through this eyelet. And we're going to continue going through here. And it fits right underneath this bracket. That's why there's a little hole right here, a little tunnel per se. And then it is going to be attached to the center screw right here. Now the screw here, the screw eye here is located between these two, so pretty much so in the center someplace. Doesn't have to be perfect, you can even eyeball it, but it has to be around there someplace. Now after you have it in there, you're just going to tie just a little knot. like so. So you just have a little knot. And it's going to be attached with this clip. Now on this clip, you're going to see that there is a little hole right here that's that knot is going to slip into to lock it. So what you're going to do is take that and you're going to bring it in, see if I can get enough cord. And you are going to lock this right in there, just like that. Hopefully you can see that. Here it is. I can do it one more time. Here it is right here. This goes into this little channel that goes through the clip, and the knot goes right in here. Once you have it in there, you're going to go ahead and clip it. This bar has little channels in it, little grooves. And this particular one, I knocked it out of there, is going to go on the bottom. And it clips right in there. So that's what that's going to look like. And I'm going to pull it. That's how that should look. Just like that. Up in, and it's clipped, and the knot is going against it, so it will not pull out because the knot is here. The location of this clip is slightly left of the screw eye as you're looking at it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pull it. You're not too concerned about it. Just pull it so this is a little taut, but you don't have to worry about that too much. Grab a pair of scissors or over there. You'll want to leave this a good 6 inches longer or so for now. Now I'm going to show you these, and I'm hoping to put all these parts on my website in kits eventually. It's my goal. This right here, this little ball right here is called a shade orb, some people call them, and you squeeze it. And what happens is, instead of having to tie a knot, you can put these in like that. And this way you don't have to. Now you can tie a knot. You can't tie it yet because in order to tie this, it has to be up hanging before you can do it. If you tie it now, you're not going to get a true size. So, but I prefer using these instead of tying. It holds it extremely well. And you can't really pull it out. And the reason why I like to use it is when the shade is up and it's not quite adjusted right, you can either raise or lower this little orb to level your shade. So with that, I'm just going to put it right on here. Like so. Now I'm going to repeat the same process here. Now we can show you exactly where each one of these strings are going to be located. Okay, again, we're feeding it through the grommet hole to the front of the shade, like that. You can see that. And here it is. It's right here. Again, we're putting it through the very front screw eye, like so. And then I'm feeding it through this screw eye, the one that's slightly to the left. Tying my knot. Taking my little clip. Again, putting it through. And clipping it onto the channel. And if you notice, I have these in the exact same location. And it's being clipped onto the channel right here. So it's important to watch where you have these clipped on. You want to make sure that you've got the same location. Okay, so that's those two. I'm going to repeat the process of cutting this off longer. Just want to make sure you never cut the string short. A little long, doesn't matter. You're going to be trimming it off afterwards. Running the shade orb through. And that's that one. Going to our next one. And we're back to where the grommet is, putting it through the grommet. Like so. Again, we're putting it through that screw eye. And then through the screw eye that's just slightly to the left-hand side of it. Tying my knot. Taking my cord clip, once again, finding where, right here, right where that little cutout is, placing the knot in it. And again, clipping it on the bar. You notice I have these clips about in the same location. They're just slightly left. You see there is my screw eye. And the clips are just slightly left of the screw eye. So keep in mind, you don't want it to be to the right of it because it'll interfere. You want this, when it's rolling up, this is going to be rolling this way away. And that's how the shade's going to roll up. The other point is make sure that your shaft is completely against the stopper. You can see how this slides back and forth. You want to make sure it's all the way back while you're stringing it. So that's just a little tip. Okay, next one. We're almost there. At least halfway through anyway. Back through the grommet. Lift the shade again. There's my string. Once again through here. Then you gotta feed it through the second, like that. Now the reason, again, I've got two sets of strings, you might be asking yourself, which would be a good question, why don't I just run it from here up to here? And the reason why I don't like to run it here, there's several reasons. Number one, I like this to be directly underneath the drive shaft, the shaft right here, because this way it'll enable it to go multi-directions, which means you can bring it all the way down. Say you're running the string clockwise, you can bring it all the way down, but then you can run it clockwise again to bring it all the way back up. Sometimes if your shade string is too far away from it, it'll wrap differently. You want this to wrap evenly. So by having this string go directly up, the bar can run either way, to counterclockwise or clockwise. If it's running from over here, you're going to get a little different scenario with it. So I like to have it go directly underneath. Now some people argue the point that it runs just as well either way, but it's just my habit. I like it so it goes directly underneath the bar. So I take a little extra step to make sure it's running that way. I'm making my knot. And that's the location, same location as the other ones. Last two. Oh, better put the shade orb on it though. Can't forget that. And again, these are not required. These little shade orbs are not required. You can tie a knot, but it's not recommended you tie any knots until you hang the shade. Because the strings have to be under tension. If the string isn't under tension, it will not go up and down correctly, and it won't be level. So your shade has to be hanging before you tie or make an adjustment to the bottom. Keep that in mind. You can't do it on a flat table. It has to be hanging. Again, back through the grommet. Come back out, tie the knot. Oops, put it to the screw eye first. Add your clip. You want to take particular note of which way your knots are going. And if you notice, this is the clutch right here. And each one of these knots are tied so it's facing the opposite direction of your clutch. So if the clutch is on this side, your knots would be facing the opposite direction. So keep in particular mind that everything has to look the same on the shade. You don't want one way over here. you want to make sure it is directly to the left of that screw eye, and that every one of them are in the same position. Again, people might argue it doesn't make any difference. I say it does kind of make a little bit of a difference. Anything that you can keep exactly the same every time, you want the shade to be as level as you possibly can, so you want to make sure that you're doing everything the same way every single time. Squeezing the shade orb, placing it straight through the hole, like so. Last one. Now the one on the clutch side right here comes through. Now it goes into this one that we've attached. And then it's going through this screw eye right here. Underneath this little tunnel, I call it. Through this eyelet, screw eye. Easier said than done. I gotta just trim this off a little bit, just to get it to go. There you go. And this one feeds over here. So you notice what I've done is with this one, of course, you can't there's no place to wrap it up on the bar around here. So I ran it over to here, so I'm doubling up on this column here. And that's where I'm running this last one. Good. Okay, so now this part is done. I just have to come over there and cut it off. Everything's in the exact same position on it. Pick it up so you can take a good look of what that looks like. Just in case you have to do one, that's what it's going to look like. And now I'm going to come over here. Cut off. Add my shade orb. Now, in order for this to, now we're done with that. Now we have to hang the shade up. which I have over here. I'm just going to raise this up so you can get a look of what we have going on up there. Just like that. Now we're going to go hang it. I'm going to hang it so you can see the back side of it first. Then I'm going to flip it back over. I just use a few clamps. So here's the back side of the shade. This is the valance, which would be flipped over to the front of it. This is the little liner that covers the screw, the eyelets here, the grommets. And the reason why I like to cover that is because if you get bright sunlight and it hits these just right, you're going to see little holes of light coming through hitting the valance. So that's why you want to make sure you have something covered in. Also from the outside it looks better not seeing the grommets. So anyhow, having said that, I'm going to just bring this up so you can see it for now. The next part of this shade, this is a very important part. You have to put tension on these strings. And you want the same tension. That's again why I like using these. Now you don't have to, again you can tie them, but make sure that when you're tying them that there's no slack in the line and you're keeping each one of these as close in tension as you can. And again, you don't need to have these ribs. It can just be regular, just regular plastic rings is fine. I made them with this because that's what the customer ordered. Okay, now I've got all the tension on these strings. Even if they're not even, again, you can have a shade that's not going up and down correctly. Now I'm going to pull my shade up, and then after I do this I'll show you what it looks like from the other side. You'll get this once the fabric breaks in, you crease it on the other side and you won't have it. Now the reason why I like this rollee system opposed to your regular pull string is because you don't have all these cords dangling down. And then you put on the windowsill, you can lock this right down and to secure it. So that's about as far as this goes. And then we're going to close this up here. Now we're going to show you what the front side of it looks like. I'll bring it right over, and then and again, that's kind of what that looks like, all done. And I'm going to hang it from the front side also, so you can get a look of that. And then this valance comes over it, like the other one, and it hides everything. So that's what you'd be seeing after you're done. Okay, so that's what the shade looks like. And again, you're pulling it from In reference to what I was speaking about continuing the cord, as you can see, I'm going the same direction, and it'll bring it right back up again. So I can go either way to bring it back up again. And this is kind of why I like these to be directly underneath. If you can see, those are directly underneath. And I also like that these strings right here are hanging very close to the shade. Another point I'll make on this very quickly. They do make shade stops on these, and I know I'll get a few comments from other people who have made these rollies. Why don't you use the shade stop? And I do have a good reason for that. Let me pull one out. I'll show you what it looks like. These are also alternatives right here. You can use these. These are called shade stops, and they're made in conjunction with these shades. And the way these work is they would come over, and they go right over the screw eye, and I'll show you up close. They would go like this on the shade. And they're made. Now the reason why I don't use these is because I like my clutches very close to the edge. I like it there, so then I can put a cord. Let me get one out here. I can put one of these on it, or any type, and I can screw this right to the wall. And you can see this is going to line right up with the edge of the shade. If this is in here someplace, if you have to move the clutch over, this will be hanging on a very nasty angle, and you wouldn't want that. And so if you're going to be using these, which I know I'll get comments on, you cannot use it towards this clutch area. You could be using it over here, you could be using it over here, but you can't use it over here. And the way these are designed, if you only use it in one or two spots, you could end up with a crooked shade moving that way. And if you don't believe me, try it. It definitely can happen. But if you want to use these, you can. And this is the shade. Let me pull this down here for a second, just so you can see it. These guys right here are made so they clip right in. Let's see here how they go. This goes like that, and this would go like this. So it would go just like this on the board, and they're made to line up. The screw holes right there are made to line up, and you can use these on your shade if you so desire. They would go in conjunction right like this, and that would be a shade stop, just like that, and it will keep things straight. And then you can line this up with this hole. And again, the only reason I'm not using it is because I can't put one on the clutch side, so I'm not using it all together. Anyhow, hope this helps you if you're using rollies. Eventually this will be available on my website, factorydirectdesignersworkroom.com. Thank you for watching, and please watch my other videos on, I have a ton of them on flat Roman shades. My next one that I'll be doing will be on the another front mounted, but only using a standard clutch instead of the rollies, which might be a little easier for you. Thanks for watching. Take care.